podcast here. This one is a little closer to home. This is Zach Flattmann from Ole Miss, not too far down the road. Zach, how you doing today?
Doing pretty good, man. How are y'all?
Man, we got done with a training session today. I'm feeling good.
Yeah.
There you go. There you go.
It's always a good day when you get to train.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely, man. Absolutely.
So you don't train every day?
I wish I could, man.
That'll make it a good day every day.
I'm peaking right now. The fatigue's building. I'm 4 days a week right now. But, yeah, let's go ahead and jump in. Zach, you're from Ole Miss. Why don't you give us a little rundown about what you do with y'all's club?
Okay, so, it's kind of hard to call it a club right now. We, so right before COVID happened, my buddy Lawson and Ian, we tried to formulate a club, and we had, we made some pretty good progress. We kind of got it developed, and, then COVID happened, and we never really got it officially approved, and we never really had chances to meet with anybody and anything like that. So it's still been on the back burner. And to be completely honest, be very transparent here, the rec center we have at Ole Miss is not too kind towards powerlifters. We had several encounters where, we tried to train, we tried to express to them, hey, look, this is how we train. This is what we need. Can we work something out with y'all? And then some days we get a great response. Some days it would just be all over the place. So it's just been on the back burner, man. And like I said, with COVID, it's kind of hard to get anything done at the moment. We did have a few people that hit us up and mentioned they wanted to join and stuff, but it's just, yeah, man. So, I mean, really the club we have, so to speak, is not official. It's basically three of us. And we're just the ones who basically represent Ole Miss. And it's a shame too, man, because, we actually do have a fair amount of people at Ole Miss that we see training daily that are monsters. And you're just like, why are these guys not competing? So yeah, it's a bummer, man. And I envy you all for having a legitimate, program there, club to do. Cause I mean, man, that makes all the difference. And it's fun too. You get to make friends.
It's really about how the rec center and the university will work with you. So what are y'all's rec center's kind of rules right now with COVID? How strict are they?
First of all, Ole Miss in general is very strict on it. And I can give them credit for that. Oxford is the one place I've been lately that during this whole thing did not change anything. They stay true to their protocols and everything. So I was like, hey, I can credit y'all for that. That's awesome that y'all managed to do that. But the university itself, pretty strict. The campus rec is also very strict. You're limited to one session per day, 1 hour time sessions. You have to schedule. You have to wear a mask. You have to clean down. It's just a whole fiasco. So I personally, and a lot of my buddies, we decided, man, we train for 2-3 hours sometimes because we're all in there, hanging out. And it's like, we're not going to do that. And I mean, even at my fastest pace, I'm not going to get through a workout in an hour. There's no way.
I can get warmed up in an hour.
Man,
or I'm not working out enough. I don't know.
It may be not enough.
Wow, thanks, Zach. Thank you.
No, I'm just playing, man. I got to pick on you. But yeah, so it's been pretty strict there. So I've been kind of isolated to a local Anytime Fitness, which has been pretty decent, but. It sucks because the campus rec there, man. It's pretty nice. It's brand new. We've got some deadlift bars in there. The racks are nice. I mean, it sucks that we're not able to be in there, but you know what? It is what it is. And by the way it looks right now, spring semester is not going to be any different. So,
yeah, that's kind of the same way here at State. We have a 50-minute time slot. You got to reserve it. Mm-hmm. They consider us a high contact sport, so we'd have to wear a mask and gloves the whole time, and we can't do that. So we've had to relocate to a gym in town, the Club 24, and you wear a mask, you walk in, and then that's it. You can take it off and you're good. So
yeah. Well, okay. So y'all mentioned joining a gym kind of locally. Did y'all ever hit up the athletic club, Starkville Athletic Club?
They were much more expensive.
Yeah.
So Club 24 is $15 a month. And I think the athletic club is 20. It's like 20 or 30.
Yeah.
We know Dylan, and Dylan his personal trains there. And he's it's pretty expensive. And he tried talking to the owner, but it would be pretty expensive. It would be more than $15 a month.
No, I remember old Dylan when first year of college, actually, I was at in Columbus at the W, and Dylan and I met, and that was back when I was a wee lad and didn't know what I was doing, man. I was dunking squats, I was bouncing bench presses, I was bouncing my deadlifts. I was all over the place, dude. So what he saw then was a lot different. But yeah, I know Dylan. We spoke frequently whenever I was there. It was fun talking with him. But yeah, man, that was pretty cool, Jim. But I mean, hey, props to y'all, man, for finding a way to get around it. And that's what you got to do at this point.
Yeah, and I guess it's kind of be a turn off to some members that want to join, telling them that you've got to pay dues to us and also get a separate gym membership.
Yeah.
But that's just kind of how we've had to work at, and we've gotten probably, what do you say, 8 or 10 new members this semester,
and they're pretty active. Most of them.
Wow. So what's the total number y'all have over there?
Like 30.
Between 25 and 30 due-paying members.
Jesus.
Members that show
Wow.
up, it's probably between 12 and 15, which is
Holy cow.
downgrade from last year, but we're considering this like a rebuilding year, and
Yeah.
COVID's not helping it at all.
And some work out on their own, like Caleb.
Yeah.
You know Caleb?
Yep.
He works out on his own. And we've just got some others that just don't have time to come to our practices.
I got you, dude. That's awesome. Now I'm thinking about transferring over to state, man. I get a club and everything, man.
Oh, dude, we'd be stacked if you came over here, dude.
Dude,
I don't know about that right now, man. I've been ever since I was able to get back in the gym during COVID. I think about 2 weeks in to getting back to training, I partially tore my pec doing weighted dips. So since then, that was May or June, something like that. So since then, I've been just battling that thing constantly. I went from, making great progress in December, benched 402 in December, which was unexpected, to just right back down to where I was, barely benching 315, struggling, man. But I mean, I'm making some slow progress. I'm steadily around that mid-3 range right now, but it's been frustrating, man.
What are your competition PRs?
Okay, so my last meet I did was in December 2019, right before all this COVID stuff happened. I hit a 573 squat, a 402 bench, and so technically a 589 deadlift, but I did pull a fourth attempt of 606. At the time, we thought, hey, Lawson was coaching me at the time, and at the time we thought, hey, this will break the state record. So he's like, all right, 606, put it on. I didn't realize I was going for a fourth attempt, so I turned around, had like a minute rest, turn around, yank it off the ground, great. Turns out the state record was like 650. Dang, so nobody knew that. So I just ended up pulling 606 in comp. It doesn't matter anyway. It was a fourth attempt, but I tell everybody, yeah, I pulled 606. So,
and I was watching some of your Instagram videos, and you look like a heftier fella. And then I check out your open powerlifting, and you're a 105. So
yeah. So I'm on a good day pushing 5'10", on a bad day, or after a squat day, probably like 5'9". Yeah. So I'm average, man. I'm built like a catcher, dude. Grew up playing catcher for baseball and stuff. I'm just short, squatty, low to the ground, great for squats, pretty decent for deadlifts. Bench, yeah, we won't talk about that.
I mean, 402, it's a really respectable raw bench.
It really is.
Yeah, well, it's funny too, because going into it, my last, I think, heavy single going into the meet was like 365, and I took that for a triple. Actually, I take that back. I took that for a triple. But yeah, I'd never touched anything over 370, and in the meet, I think my second attempt was around 369. Blew it off the chest, and coach was like, "Hey, let's." I looked at him. I said, "Call it. I don't want to know what it is. Whatever." I go to sit down on the bench, and they say, "Zach Flattmann with a 402 attempt." I looked at him. I was like, "Dude, what? This is gonna kill me." And it actually, dude, that was probably the hardest bench I've ever done in my life. I got it about halfway back up, and just started shaking. I was like, "Oh, this isn't good," and I ended up just finally locking it out. But yeah, I impressed myself, dude. I was not expecting that at all.
What do you attribute your big bench to? Like accessory work-wise?
Honestly, accessories somewhat, but actually at the time when I benched the 402, I was running the Juggernaut AI program, and that was my second cycle through. So at the time, I was training, I think 4 or 5 days a week, and 3 of those days were bench. So it was just frequency and volume. I mean, I barely did any accessories. The only accessories for that was, I think I did Spotos for a while. I did some pin presses, and then, some bicep tricep work, but that's really about it. And I really think, and that's one thing I've noticed lately is, I think I learned that my body responds really well to that frequency. And, some people it helps, some people it doesn't. The one thing I will note about that frequency, though, is I was exhausted 24/7. Joints were killing me. Just everything just hurt, man, until, I got up to meet and I was fine. But that is one thing I've noticed lately is I don't quite hit the lifts as frequent, but my fatigue and my soreness and pain levels are just way down.
Yeah.
So that has kind of been a nice thing about working with Josh is the transition from, hitting each lift, 3-4 times a week to doing them once a week and really hitting a lot of volume there. So that's been nice.
Yeah, I think a lot of people could benefit from upping the frequency, especially for something like bench. It's a smaller muscle group, so they can recover a little bit faster. But as with any lift, you got to test it out and kind of feel the waters and how your body reacts to it.
My take on the whole frequency thing, I think it's great, especially if you're a beginner. Yeah. And I actually had this conversation with somebody the other day. He was talking about it, and I told him, I said, look, man, the more you do that motor pattern, the better you're going to be at it. And it's not just, you're lifting more frequently, more weight, you're going to accumulate the volume, but you get more comfortable. Yeah. You learn, you start to realize, hey, my foot's a 1/4 inch to the left than it should be. So, hey, I need to correct that. Or you start to become so much more familiar with it. And over time, all that's going to do is build your confidence, and you're going to get stronger at the same time. For example, Sean Noriega benches 6 days a week, 7 days a week. And I mean, look at his bench, and he's efficient at it. I mean, that's obviously you're not going to start off like him, but still, I mean, that frequency helps a lot in many ways, not just building that strength, but that motor pattern, your confidence, understanding what proper form is, all that kind of stuff. But obviously there are some trade-offs. You can become really sore, really fatigued sometimes if you're doing it incorrectly, which honestly, I probably was. My bench is not the prettiest thing to look at. It's probably why I was experiencing pain often. I was benching incorrectly, but as time went on, I started to understand, okay, this is what I'm doing wrong. This is why I'm getting this pain. Let me correct this, that, and that, and it ended up paying off.
So you're working with Josh now, and for people who don't know, Josh Bryant, creator of Jailhouse Strong, he's the coach for Julius Maddox, the world record bench holder.
Yep.
So how does your training now, you just talked about Juggernaut, and it's much higher volume training, and you mentioned that you're on a little bit of a lower volume training now, so hitting things once a week. But how does that training session differ now than when you were with Jug?
Okay, so first big difference I noticed, and this was day one working with Josh after I'd taken a month off of training. I went from having almost 4-hour workout sessions, and yes, everybody that hears this is going to look at this and be like, what were you doing in that 4 hours? But still, went from 4 hours of training to about an hour and a half. Pretty much 75-80% of my lifts are timed. Rest periods are timed. So that has been a huge difference. And actually that has helped a lot with, cardiovascular endurance, man. I can do these workouts really quick, really fast, and I'm not getting winded. Whereas in the past, it took me almost 2 hours to do 6 sets of squats, from going all the way up to a top set and then doing 5 or 6 back downs. It took me almost 2 hours. So I'm a lot more time efficient. Another thing too is, Jug followed a kind of linear path. Well, with Josh, I don't honestly know exactly how he bases his percentages on, but it's a lot of intensity. I may do one top set and a few back downs, but those top sets are insanely heavy. I mean, they're 90 to 95, 96%, and it's usually for 1 or 2 reps. That's another thing too. So with Jug, I was doing, your basic, you start off high reps, low weight, and you kind of increase the weight, decrease the reps. Well, now I think the most reps I've done on a compound movement was 5. And that was back when I first started. Lately, everything's 2 or 3 reps.
Yeah.
And it's super heavy.
Yeah. So does he save his more accessory work for that higher volume?
Yes, absolutely. All of my accessory work is pretty much 10 reps, 10 or more reps. except for some of them. Some of them can be a little lower, but they're usually a lot heavier in weight. But yeah, pretty much all of my accessories are really high rep, still pretty heavy weight, and timed rest periods. So, but I'll say this much: I'm still trying to understand his method. But I'll say this: it has kept me interested. And the biggest reason I got off of the Juggernaut program was, number one, I didn't want to pay like $400 a month for a coach. But number two, it was the same exercises every week, every day, except until you got a month out from the meet, it would change a little bit. And it was just, I did it for a straight year, man. So I got in the gym one day, actually after my second meet, I looked at my friend, I was like, dude, I can't keep doing this. This is going to drive me insane. Doing the same thing over and over. It's like, I want some variability. With Josh, I'm doing things I've never heard of before, and they're awesome, man. I mean, the rep schemes, the exercises themselves, it's fun, man. You get in, you're like, I don't know if I'm going to survive this workout, but hey, it's fun. If I do, it's going to be worth it.
His program is definitely not for the weak.
No.
If anyone's ever looked at his book, it's just a ton of volume. He takes a lot of it from prisoners and how they get jacked.
And I have some personal experience with Josh programming those kind of workouts for me. When COVID happened, we had only been working with each other for a little over a month. And I was making good progress. I was starting to get reacclimated to weights. Like I said, I took time off. I was working with the strength and conditioning team at Ole Miss. So I was starting to rebuild, and COVID happens. And I told him, I said, dude, look, I don't want to lose that much. Like, I understand without being able to lift and that kind of stuff, I'm going to lose a little bit, but I want to maintain as much mass as I can. Oh my God. That was by far I was in shape as all get out, man. I mean, you could have asked me to run a marathon. I could have done it. I mean, the reps on reps on reps on reps of everything body weight. Now, let me say this. If anybody ever tells you to do a Hindu squat, run away. Don't ever do it. And the reason I say that is they're meant to be done in like sets of 100 reps and like et cetera, et cetera. And he had me doing like 10 sets of 60 to 70 of those with like 30 seconds of rest in between. And you're like, oh, it's body weight squats, man. That's not a big deal. It's rough. And then he does them with push-ups too. So, but hey, that method works, man. I came out of quarantine, and the first day back in the gym, or the first week back, he wanted to test where I was. So he's like, all right, give me a 3-rep max on bench. Let's see where you're at. My best 3-rep max to that date was 365 before December. I hit 350 for a triple. Wow. So my strength really didn't dip that much. It was just the fact of getting under that heavy load again, that shock to the system. Yeah. But dude, the prison style workout isn't a joke, especially if you do it right. So if anybody's, I'm going to be a little plug for my coach, but anybody needs something like that, dude, he's the way to go. Those workouts are not a joke. They're awesome. You stay committed, you're going to get the results you want. Yeah. Simple as that.
So I kind of want to switch gears here. The Ole Miss Club, do y'all specifically do USPA meets?
So let's see. So it was August 2019. That was my first meet, and actually my buddy's first meet as well. So we did USPA just because it was what we could find. It was local. It was with the time frame and all that kind of stuff. But so we technically, I guess you could say, we do USPA. But if we ever did get a club going, likely we're going to swap USAPL, or we're going to have both. I mean, honestly, it doesn't matter. You want to do one or the other. Doesn't really matter, man. In fact, personally, I only have experience with USPA, and I have no problem with it. Mm-hmm. But soon I am going to make that transition to USAPL. In fact, I signed up for a meet in January, and I was debating. I was like, do I want to go ahead and do USAPL, or do I want to do USPA? And I was like, I'm going to do one more USPA because I'm familiar with it. I know how the system works, all this kind of stuff. It's no new variables, especially with a new coach. I want to have a familiar environment that I'm going into. But yeah, for the club itself, all of my buddies that technically make up the club, we're USPA guys.
I got you. I think really just the only benefit to USAPL is having collegiate nationals, and being able to compete in that. But I mean, really,
absolutely,
they're both federations. They both put on good meets. I mean, just they're both
no,
much the same.
Yeah, I mean, when you think about it, especially on the tested side, I mean, the only difference is you got a squat bar and a deadlift bar, and then a 24-hour weigh-in. But I mean, honestly, at our level, competing locally and stuff, it's kind of the same thing, man. I mean, it's not as high stakes. It's fun. It's enjoyable. And that was the thing too, man. I did the USPA because I was like, hey, I got two buddies that are going to compete, so why wouldn't I go do that?
So
yeah, I enjoy it.
How do you feel about that?
Versus, I can. So I don't have experience with the USAPL type weigh-in. I think we all have a 2-hour weigh-in, basically. Yeah, I have no experience with that. However, I technically train at my weight I'm going to weigh in at, if not a few pounds over. So, for example, I compete in the 220 class, the 100 kilo class. I usually train around 222, 223, and then I'll drop a little bit of weight at 216. So it's not like I'm shocking my body and like, oh, I'm going to make this drastic cut and then compete at that weight. No, like, I mean, I'm pretty consistent across the board. So if you're consistently training at that weight, in my opinion, either way doesn't really matter. I mean, yeah, you're going to be able to load up a little more. I understand that. You're going to be able to load up more, get some more fluid in your system, more food in your system. But I mean, at our level, at the level I'm at right now, I don't really see it making much of a difference. Now, however, when you get higher up and you see all these professionals doing it, you're like, okay, yeah, there's a little bit of a difference. But, to each their own. Whichever one you're more comfortable with, do it, man. Who cares?
I've never really dabbled in the water cut. I mean, I usually, like you said, like to train at the weight I'll compete at. So for USAPL, it goes up to like 231. So usually right now I'm at 228. I got to meet in like 3 weeks, so I'll probably just stick around 228, maybe drop a pound or two.
Yeah, that's pretty much what I do, man. I mean, now granted, my second meet, I did get a little more aggressive. I got down to about 213 on weigh-ins because I was like, hey, this is my second meet. I'm a little more comfortable. I'm going to see if I can boost my Wilks a little bit. But I mean, it didn't really make much of a difference. I mean, I was still around the same. It wasn't like I went from 220 to 200. I mean, overnight. So I mean, that could really, really hurt you. But yeah. I mean, like I said, it's whichever one you're more comfortable with. I mean, if you want to do 24-hour weigh-ins because you feel like it gives you an advantage, do it. Who cares? I mean, there's a tested side. Go do it. If you want to do 2 hours and you feel it's more official, do it. Who cares, man? Do what makes you happy.
Yeah,
seriously.
There's so much little stuff. Like I was listening to a Two White Lights podcast earlier with Joe Sullivan, and they were talking about like all the beef that people have on Instagram over just like little dumb shit. Like who cares what federation you lift in? Who cares high bar, low bar? Like at the end of the day, we're all just trying to get the best as we can at doing 3 lifts. I mean, it's simple.
Dude, I'm so glad you brought that up because I was like, we better talk. Y'all better ask me something like this or talk about something like this. Okay. Speaking of beef, just in general, let's think about what powerlifting is. It's a sport, technically. Yes. Are we widely known? I mean, yeah, some may argue yes, but I mean, in general, we're not football, we're not baseball, whatever. This is a sport most people do because they love to do it. It's a hobby in a way. Okay. I'm probably going to get criticized for that, but I don't really care. We're picking up weights and putting them back down, guys. That's what we're doing. Okay. It's not that big of a deal. I love powerlifting. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying it's a stupid sport. I love the sport to death. It has got me through a lot of things, man, a lot of things. But why can't we just be, hey, good for you, man. You hit a great lift, whatever. I get the Garrett Fears of the world, and I have nothing against what he does. I agree. Hey, you're trying to legitimize the sport. You're going to call out the people who are making that impossible. But at the end of the day, man, look at the sport in general. See how serious people really take it. And, nobody's making a huge living off of this. It's just something people do because they want to do it. It gives you a little asterisk to your name, like, oh, hey, I hold this or hold this record, whatever. I mean, but at the end of the day, man, we're picking up weights. We're putting them back down. It's not that complex, okay? It is what it is. So how about this? Man, stop with the beef. It's stupid. It's stupid, in my personal opinion. I get it. You can be funny and this and that, but it's like, come on, man. What happened to just being a good person, lifting people up? If somebody wants to be an idiot and talk trash and be stupid like that, let them be, man. It's not worth your time. But, for example, I saw the other day, and this just lit a fire under me, man. I'm not going to say names of who it was, but some pretty well-known lifters, and this guy who just got off an injury, I think it was a meniscus, comes back and hits a huge 500-pound bench press. Now, granted, his butt came off the bench. And a very popular Instagram site posted it, and some other lifter who is very well-known in the community decided to trash on him, like, oh, so we're posting this now, this kind of quality stuff. It's like, dude, the guy just got hurt, came off surgery, and he hits a huge lift. Okay, yeah, his butt's off the bench. It's in the gym, man. Who cares? Like, come on. There's no need to be a prick. Seriously,
it's
like
training. That's the point of training.
Exactly.
To learn from what you've done and fix it for the meet. That's when it really matters.
Yeah,
None of what you do in training is posted on open powerlifting.
Mm-hmm. No, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And then it kind of goes back to my whole thing. It's like, guys, look at the sport in general. It's very basic. It's very simple. Pick up weights, you put them back down. Okay. I just never understood why people had to be so picky and stuff like that, man. Like, I get some rivalries here and there, being fun. You know, my buddies and I, you know, we have our little inner rivals and stuff like that. But, you know, just being a downright bad person to people about this stuff, I just never understood, man. It's like, come on, there's no need for it. The world's already negative enough, man. There's no more, we don't need any more of that, man.
Yeah. So how do you think we can grow the sport of powerlifting and also the community of powerlifting?
Well, grow the sport. Well, obviously, the biggest thing you can do to grow a sport is get it televised, and we've tried to do that. And man, I just, you know, I'm not one of these huge people in the powerlifting world that, you know, understand how this kind of works. Obviously, personally, I would say get this thing televised more, get more people involved. And I mean, there's a plethora of people involved in powerlifting. So as for that, you know, honestly, if people say have one federation that everybody can, you know, align with, or have one unifying body or this and that, and it's like, that's not going to happen, man. No. I mean, you have the IPF and the USAPL, and you got USPA. That's it. So and then it's hard to explain to people who aren't involved in powerlifting, hey, this federation does this and has these rules, and this federation has this and this. It's just like, you know, people don't understand that. So it's hard to, one of the biggest barriers is relating it to people, common people, and having them understand what's a big lift, what's this, what's that. And to them, like I said, it's just a sport where it's like, oh, you're squatting a weight and you're picking the deadlift up and this, that. So yeah, I'm going to leave that to the people who know what they're doing. You know, like King of the List, for example, man. I mean, they've done a great job trying to grow the sport, man. But I mean, until we get this sport televised, I mean, it's going to kind of remain the same, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Now, granted, I don't know much. I'm not involved as much as these people, but I mean, that's obviously the biggest thing that everybody wants. Hey, get it televised, man. It's the biggest thing you want.
And I think for outsiders, it's hard to get interested in it because it's so repetitive. Like, everybody does, you know, all their first squats and then all their second squats and third squats, and then it goes on the bench and it's the same thing. And it can be like kind of hard to understand, you know, looking at like why someone would get a red or a white light. Like there's a lot of little rules in there that wouldn't make sense to people, outsiders watching in.
Right.
I think, you know,
right.
if we could get it televised, that'd be awesome. Like,
yeah.
Well, like when Hathor got his world record attempt televised, I'm sure that grew the sport a little bit. But you know,
absolutely.
There's one person's attempt.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, you're talking about like having people explain what the difference is, and you know, having good announcers. I know IPF for Worlds and stuff. Forget his name. His real name. They call him Six. The King of the Lifts guy who does the podcast stuff. He comments, or he's the announcer for it, and it's amazing, man. You know, you're into it. You feel like you're watching a football game, man. He's so into it and this and that. So like having people like that do it would help grow it a lot and help people understand, hey, this is it could be a legitimate sport. Like people could get into this, but then you have some streams, for example, with Julius, his 800-pound bench press attempt, dude. I muted the stream. I just couldn't. It was just dead air, man. I mean, they were trying their best, and you know, I give it to the guys. They were doing their best, but it's like, it just wasn't interesting to watch, and I ended up turning it off. I was like, I don't want to watch this. But then another thing. Okay, so the other question you'd asked me was growing the community. I think the biggest thing I hear usually, I have people come up to me and ask me sometimes is like, I want to compete, but, I feel like I'm not strong enough or I'm not where I should be. And it's like, for those of you who listen to this and are thinking about it, it's like, dude, it doesn't matter how strong you are. My first meet I did, there were people lifting the bar, literally the bar with like a 2.5 kilo on it. Mm-hmm. Doesn't matter, man. It's fun. It's a great environment. Going in there and you've seen all these impressive lifts. You've got a very friendly environment, especially at these local meets, man. Everybody's so chill, relaxed, rooting for everybody. It's a cool thing, man. You got the music blasting. You got your friends and family in the stands watching you. I mean, it is awesome. So, I mean, that's one thing that could help grow the community by having these people who want to join and get involved understand, hey, don't be intimidated. If you're just because you're not an elite athlete like some of these guys are, doesn't mean you can't compete. Go do it. Go have fun, man. Yeah. That's what it's about.
One of the new guys on our team, he was asking me because he's going to compete in a couple of weeks at one of the Blue Mountain College meet we're going to, and he was like, "What's the environment like?" And I tell him, it's like there's music going, people are cheering, lights, so everybody's competing against each other in a way, but everybody's also rooting for each other.
Yeah.
And you
Absolutely.
get to the end of the meet, and you've made friends, you've talked to people from the warm up area, other people's parents are congratulating you. Like everybody becomes closer throughout a meet, and it's just a really good environment, like you said, for anybody to get into.
Oh, dude! After my first meet, I had several people follow me on Instagram. I met Caleb. That's how I came to know about him, and I realized this dude's a monster. Yeah. Holy cow. But yeah, you meet a lot of great people, man. And then sometimes you see these just studs come out of nowhere. In fact, my first meet, we had a guy. Oh, I forgot what meet it was. He was qualifying for one out in California. But, dude, it was just like everybody was down here, and then he's up here. It was crazy, man. But I mean, that's cool to see, man. In that environment, you're like, holy cow, the human body can move that weight. That's impressive, man. It's awesome.
Yeah, there's a girl that goes to Blue Mountain College, and at the last meet we went to in Hattiesburg, she's equipped, 84 plus, and she went for a national record squat at 6:45, and that is just seeing a girl squat 645 pounds.
It's quite impressive.
It's very impressive. I mean, everybody in that building had their eyes on that platform.
Anybody squatting 645 is impressive.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Holy cow. Oh, my God. At 84 kilo, 645. Mm-hmm. I heard that right. Oh, my God. Yeah, that's impressive.
As a national record.
That is insane, dude. I mean, I'm just wanting to squat 600 over here. And I see that, and I'm like, what's the point?
It was pretty funny at the meet. Caleb was like, I can't let her out squat me.
Oh, man. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Dude, I tell you, that's one of the craziest things. You hit a lift in the gym, you feel good about yourself, you go on Instagram, you see these monsters who are like, 74 kilos pulling mid-sevens or squatting mid-six. You're like, well, what am I even doing? This is pointless.
That brings to a point, though. Like you see these guys, most of these people have been doing it for 10 years plus, or 8 years, or some of them are just really good at it. And then you come in here, you start doing it, but you see these people on Instagram that are doing those massive lifts, and you have to think a little bit. Or it gets a little discouraging for some people. I mean, I've been discouraged before. I'm sure I can speak for a lot of people. You see those big lifts, and you're like, wow, I'm never going to get there. How do they get that? I guess I don't have the genetics for it. But you just got to stick with it, keep doing it, stay consistent with it, and you'll get there.
No, absolutely, man. And, coming from a team sport background, let me say this. I played football and baseball in high school, and I even played a semester in college for baseball. Coming from a team sport, going to an individual sport was amazing because you go from concerning yourself with everybody on the team, everybody around you, to being an individual and saying, hey, I don't care what's going on outside me. It is me versus this weight that I have on the bar. Simple as that. And you know what? Yeah, you can look and be like, oh, hey, oh my gosh, this is discouraging. See, and I get it. I've been at that level where I'm like, I see these kids who are younger than me at the same weight, and they're pulling 800 pounds and they're squatting 700 pounds. And I'm like, well, am I ever going to do that?
Yeah.
Then I'm like, you know what? It doesn't matter. powerlifting to me was an out for a lot of things, helped a ton mentally. And at the end of the day, you got to come to a conclusion and say, hey, what am I doing this for? Am I doing this because I want to break records, or am I doing this because I love to do this? And at the end of the day, I decided, I said, you know what? Yeah, it's fun to break some records, but I'm doing this because I love this sport, man. And you got to be concerned with your own goals and understand, hey, everybody's different. You know, be concerned with your own goals, make your own goals, and strive for those, dude. I mean, yeah, what somebody else is doing is awesome, but, you know, hey, just have your own goals, man. Set your own goals, crush them, and kill them.
It can be so hard not to compare yourself to somebody else.
Absolutely.
Especially like people that are younger or smaller, way less than you, lifting more than you. But at the end of the day, you know, powerlifting, it's an individual sport. The only thing you should be focused on is how much better you've gotten since the last training session or last year, or, you know, just keep adding that progression. And I think that's why it appeals to so many people. It's because it is individual, and you can just worry about yourself. You know, it is kind of selfish at the root of it. Yeah. Although the community is super important too.
And absolutely. You add like 100 pounds to your total in a year. That's a lot of progress. That's a lot better. Just think if you did that for 5 years. That's 500 pounds added to your total. That's a great number. Some people add 50. 50 is still a great number. It's just that, again, that continuous process of adding a little bit and a little bit over time, and eventually you will be at that point.
Yeah. Look, it doesn't matter if it's 100 pounds, 50 pounds, or half a kilo. Yeah. You're still making progress.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and that's another thing, too. You got to learn how to think long-term with this sport. Yep. You know, you don't compete every single – it's not like baseball where you're playing almost every day, or football where you're playing every weekend. Like powerlifting, you're spacing it out by several months, unless you're a freak and you do one every month. But I don't know many people that do that. Got to learn how to think long-term. And, I mean, that has helped me a lot, too. It's like, hey, you know, from where I was in the beginning to where I am now, I've made some really big strides. And I got to understand, I'm not going to be 100 pounds stronger in a month.
No.
A year from now, maybe. A year and a half from now, absolutely. You know, if I keep working towards it. So that's another thing, too. It just comes down to being realistic with yourself, too, and understanding, hey, this is going to take time. I got to be patient. I got to stay true to it and understand that, you know, you trust in that process is going to get you to that end result.
So this brings us to another question. What are some of your short-term and also long-term goals in powerlifting?
Okay, so short-term currently, I'm going to base that off of the meet I have going in right now. Number one, do not want to tear my pec off the bone, man. That is the primary goal right now is do not tear this pec. Like, do not. I got lucky and I did not rip it completely off. I thought I did. So right now it's like, hey, go in, finish this meet with no injuries. Especially that. Now, with all the other lifts, squat, I dunked 585 about 2 weeks ago. So and it moved great. So right now I'm wanting to register a 600-pound squat. Probably going to be like my second attempt. Third attempt, probably, you know, based on how it moves, go conservative and do like 610, 615. And if that moves really well, fourth attempt, I already have the state record, so I can take a fourth attempt and break that and just go for broke in 620, 630, something like that. So right now for the meet, for sure, putting 600 on the board for squat. And if it's there, maybe 615, 620. Bench, I would like to hit just around where I was, whether that's 365, 385, or if I end up benching something over. In fact, I was actually in December when I hit that 402, I was only, I think, 9 pounds away from the national record in the tested category of USPA. That would be cool. But I mean, short term, I just want to put, you know, something high threes on the board. And then deadlifts, I do not want to drop another deadlift, man. I have dropped 2 deadlifts in comp. I pulled hook grip, both comps. And going into my second one, I was having a little bit of trouble with it. I just couldn't I have very small hands. And, you know, some people say, hey, with hook grip, no matter what size hand you have, you can still do it. I disagree 100%. I did this for a year and I could not get it down. The bar rolled on me constantly. It just wasn't working. So I dropped it because of my hook grip, whether the thumbs ripped or they were just so swollen from bench. And I ended up going mixed grip and pulling. So I've trained nothing but mixed grip lately. And my goal is, number one, don't drop a deadlift. Number two, I'm thinking I can put up a 630 deadlift easily. In fact, it was their last meet. And I never posted the video of the 606, but it moved like an opener. And I'm not exaggerating when I say that. It flew. In fact, I wouldn't doubt if 640 was there that day. So right now, I want to put 630 up on my deadlift. And I've been really happy lately. In fact, today I had a deadlift day, training day. And we, right now we're doing like deadlifts off of 4-inch blocks. And I had to do 615 today. And it just flew up. And probably RPE 8. Now, granted, yes, it's off a 4-inch block, but still holding that weight in your hand and knowing how fast it moved, it's like, okay, yeah, it's there. We can pull that. That's realistic. But yeah, so that's kind of where I stand now. Long term, oh man, I would love to put up. Okay, so after this meet, I'm definitely going to make the transfer to USAPL. I'm a tested lifter. You know, I would like to compete against, you know, people who are well known in the sport and compare my levels to that. So long term, I'd love to get a 700-pound squat, bench, you know, mid-4s, maybe touching 5s. I don't think that's impossible. And then deadlifts, I would, oh my gosh, mid-7s, maybe, a little more. Now, that's not going to be in 2-3 years. That's going to be within the next 8-10 years. Yeah. I fully believe that. But, I mean, yeah, that's where I stand, man. Now, I am currently still in the junior class, so it would be nice to maybe set some more junior records in the USPA national stuff. But, I mean, honestly, I think after this meet, I'm going to just make the switch because nobody competes tested USPA. And it's a shame because it's fun, but, you know, I compete against myself basically with the records. It's like, oh, Zach Flattmann holds a record. Oh, he's breaking it again. Yeah, it's like, I want to have some, and I want to have somebody to compare myself against, compete against, like Caleb. You know, compare my numbers to him. It's like, okay, I see where you're at. Okay, I'm going to strive to do this and this and this. So, I told Caleb
I'd love to see you and him compete against each other.
Dude, he would smoke me. He's a monster.
See y'all compete at a meet. I bet y'all would have that would be fun. That would be a cool experience to see.
He's getting beefy.
He's 280.
280? I'm pretty certain he and I competed in the same class in August of 2019. Holy cow. My God. I do remember seeing him though at that meet, and I was like, this dude's a monster. Like, he's going to be something, dude. Where's he at now strength-wise? I think, didn't he just do a meet?
Yeah, he did the meet in Hattiesburg, the middle of September.
Mm-hmm.
It was
like a 640-something squat,
402 bench, and he broke his record for the state deadlift. And I think he hit. He went for 8 on. No, he didn't go for 8.
Yeah, he went for 7. I think.
He's at like a 1,700 total though.
Yeah.
Jesus. Well, you know what? I feel better about myself considering my bench is even with his.
So, okay, here we go. Squat, 639. Deadlift, 706. Bench, 402. So, 1,747 total.
And he had more on the tank and everything.
Yeah. And when I first met him, he was at 1,500, and that was a year ago.
Yeah, that was about the time I met him, too.
Yeah.
That's insane. Mm-hmm. And I think, actually, the meet he did in August with me, I think it was only his second meet, maybe. Mm-hmm. I mean, he's just now starting. I mean, he's got a lot of untapped potential coming up, dude. I mean, that's gonna be a name you're gonna hear for a while. That's good for him, man. That's awesome.
He's still doing Jug AI.
Jesus Christ. Now I'm thinking, I'm like, wait, why did I get off that? It was like $28 a month. My God. I can only imagine the volume he's going through too, dude. But that weight,
he loves it, dude. He loves every bit of it.
No, I remember I saw him doing a high bar set of 12 with 500 like it was nothing. I was like, dude, come on, save some for the rest of us, man. This is killing me. But dude, that would be awesome to compete with him.
So being that our show is geared toward the younger lifters, you know, getting high school and college lifters into powerlifting and helping them start their journey, what is the main piece of advice that you would give younger lifters trying to get into the sport?
Main piece of advice. Okay. think I might have several for this one. Okay, number one of the biggest things I learned starting, learn how to do the movements right. Okay?
Thank you.
You see a lot of people coming in and they have movement inefficiencies. They're doing it wrong. The bars fall over their head while they're squatting, or they're touching, their shoulders while they're benching because they looked at bodybuilding.com. I'm guilty of that. Yes, I know. But learn to do the movements right, man. You learn to do that, you're going to stay safe. You're not going to get hurt as often, or you're not really going to get hurt at all. And it makes it more enjoyable when you know what you're doing, when you're consistent. Okay, another little piece of advice: don't be afraid to get into it, man. Don't be afraid to just bite the bullet and start. I was one of those people that said, man, I want to compete when I'm at a 1,500 pound total. And I was technically at that, but I was like, you know what? If I keep saying that, I'm going to wait and say, I'm going to wait till I'm at a 1,600 or 1,700. It's going to be forever until I compete. So if you have any sort of interest in the sport, sign up now, do it, have fun, learn some valuable lessons, man. You learn a lot from your first meet, how things run, how to, do your attempts, all sorts of things, man. You learn a lot. So don't hesitate, sign up. And number three, probably more for for the people that may be a little more advanced or a little higher up, when you actually get a coach, communicate with your coach. That is one thing Josh and this is one thing I've loved about Josh, among the many things I've loved about it. But when I tore my pec, I emailed him instantly. He emailed me back. We set up a plan, had it going. Every week we communicate about it. We're on the same, wavelength with that. So communicate, man. If you have a coach, don't lie, don't BS, stay true, fill out the program, tell them everything. I tell Josh down to the T what went on that day, whether it was how I felt while I was benching, or if I had a little tweak in my shoulder, this, that. And some may say that's excessive, but it helps. The coach is like, okay, hey, I know these movements hurt this guy or it's causing problems, let's back off. And Josh has told me several times, he's like, dude, thank you for telling me this in depth. So now I know, hey, this triggers a possible, pain sensation, or this is what we should do. This is what's getting results, and this and that. So communicate with your coaches. That's another big thing. And then overall, have fun, man. It is a very simple sport. It is an individual sport. It is not like football where you got to remember the play, and if you forget your part in the play, you screw up the whole play, and then everybody's going to hate you, and you're going to be the worst player ever. No, it's an individual sport. You focus on yourself. Have fun, man. Have fun. The biggest thing. Enjoy it. Make some friends along the way. That is the greatest thing it's brought to me, dude. Is a lot of friendships, a lot of times where I could just go and vent and take out some frustration on a bar, man, which you can't do yes, you can kind of do in team sports, but not to the extent you can do in powerlifting. In fact, I almost got kicked out of our rec center after hitting a big squat triple because I was just pissed off that day, let a lot of anger out. I may have dropped the F-bomb accidentally in front of a lot of people, about got kicked out. But hey, sport of powerlifting, that's great.
I picked it up from you, Zach. Oops.
Dude, a little about that story. A little one for the viewers. So I squatted 551 in August, and this was going into the December meet. I had a big triple at 545, and mentally, dude, I was out of it. I was like, this is going to staple me. This is going to kill me. There's no way I can do this. I'm pacing. I'm all around the place. I'm trying to get angry. I mean, I looked like somebody. It looked like I was ready to kill somebody. It was bad. Ended up squatting it, racked it. I blacked out. I don't really remember half of it. I remember unracking, throwing my lever off, starting to undo my wrist wraps, and then I was just screaming the F-bomb as loud as I could. And once I came to my senses, I started seeing all the campus rec employees kind of coming to the edge. And I would find out later from one of my friends that worked with them that they were this close to kicking me out. It was eventful. Very eventful. So I will say this though, learn to control yourself in the gym. It's good to be excited, but just know your surroundings. That was kind of embarrassing. I had a bunch of older people and actually some children in there as well. So it was not a good moment. Not a good moment.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Awesome, man. Well, thank you so much for coming on. We appreciate your time. Where can people find you on Instagram?
So I'm actually not terribly active on Instagram, but my handle is Zach Flattmann 29, if I remember that correctly. In fact, I could double check that real fast. Yeah, Zach Flattmann 29, all lowercase. don't expect to hear much from me on Instagram. I am very dormant on social media. I've actually backed away from it. I usually just kind of scope it out. In fact, I saw that you had followed me, and I was like, oh, I should probably follow him. But yeah, I'm gonna probably start posting again in a little bit. I'm getting kind of closer to the meet. I finally signed up, so I'll probably start posting some lifting stuff here and there. But yeah, it's pretty much all lifting. That's about it.
Yeah.
Nothing special.
Yeah, go give him a follow. As always, you can find us at triple.b.podcast. Altman, go ahead and plug it.
At Big Scholar Strength.
There we go. Check me out at Seth.Todd76. Zach, thank you for your time. We wish your club very much luck in the future and healthy training for you.
Appreciate it, man. I enjoyed it.
All right, thanks, everybody.